And today we will mostly confine our discussion to the particle in one-dimensional box. What is particle one? What is a particle in one-dimensional box, and its a description. Wave the writing hits Hamiltonian. I'm writing, solving the Schrodinger wave equation and try to understand the solutions, especially the wave function and the eigenvalue, that is nothing but the energy, that we will see today systematically. This is very basic and very simple model system. Let me tell you, this is very simple model system. Uh, and we don't have any exact system in chemistry that we do not come across, but then this is, I would call it as a model system. It is not, we don't have any system that really exactly resemble this particle in one-dimensional box in chemistry or in a routine life that we come across. Okay, so if we can understand this particular problem in detail, this will help you to understand much more complicated problem as we study in this particular course, especially the harmonic oscillator and also the hydrogen atom. That is a real hydrogen atom is a real problem that we will discuss later on. Okay, so let me also tell you that if you can understand this particular concept, this particular problem in detail, this will help you in answering certain questions in CSR and also the GATE examination. You can please refer certain previous question papers. You can just Google it. You will find the GATE papers or also CSR examination papers. And invariably, all these papers will have at least some weightage. At least 1 mark weightage will be there from this particular topic. Today, if you can understand this, and you will be able to answer. I was told I was following the question paper pattern till 20 January. After that, I didn't see the question paper. But till then, at least one problem will be there on a particle confined to one-dimensional box in CSR question paper. So that one problem is actually a 4 mark. So if you can attend thoroughly and understand all the concept in particle in one-dimensional box, it's very easy to answer. I tell you, I will maybe at the end of this particular discussion, maybe I will float a couple of questions, the previous questions, and you will see certain questions are very simple. Certain questions are moderatively, you have to just apply certain concept within this, and then only you can answer. So overall, it is very easy to answer question from this particular concept. So therefore, I request all of you, whatever you are listening, or maybe just after the class also, if you have any doubt in this, you just let me know. Its solution is very easy. It's not very rigorous like hydrogen atom or the harmonic oscillator, right? So with this background, let me proceed further. So let me define what is particle in one-dimensional box. Let us suppose the particle, a particle actually moving along in a particular direction. Okay, and this particular particle, what I said was the first and foremost restriction. Okay, I will not allow this particle to move any distance along the x direction. Okay, so therefore I have put as two boundaries. One is x is equal to 0, the other boundary is x is equal to L. So what I did was, the first condition is that my particle is moving in a one-dimensional box, not to any distance, but to a finite distance. That finite distance, what I would call it as a L. So from, if you are taking the first position, the origin as the 0, then it is maximum, it can move up to L. L is the distance. Okay, it is moving. That means I am confining my system. Now, further, what I would say that as long as my particle is confined within these two limits, its potential energy, I say it is 0. Okay, it is a free particle. That means it doesn't interact with any of the environment. If there is a particle nearby, No, there is an interaction, but then for the sake of convenience, that interaction energy taken to be zero. Therefore, the overall potential energy of such a particle is zero. This is a condition number 2. And then I'm also putting one more condition. Okay, as long as the particle is within these two limits, its potential energy is zero. But then outside these two limits, its potential energy, I don't know. What is the potential energy of such a particle? I don't know. Why I said I don't know, because in mathematics there is something that we understood. If anything is understood, we say it is a finite quantity. Okay, if we can't understand a particular quantity, then we say it is I don't know. That I don't know has a simple mathematical term notation that is nothing but the infinity. Okay, so in other words, let me put it in a sentence. The particle, if it is outside these two limits, what are those? 0 and L, then the particle actually experiences infinitely large potential. That is why, as you can see here, the walls of the potential is shown to be very high. Okay, I don't know how much it is. Okay, since I don't know, then I am saying it is infinity. Okay, so that is the my system. Okay, what is my system? My system is nothing but a free particle moving within the limits, and as long as the particle is within that limits, I would say its potential energy is zero. And if it is going to the other limits other than these two limits, if it is crossing these two limits, then I would say its potential energy is infinitely large. That's what I have defined my system. As I told you, it is a model system, and I can define the way I like it. Okay, some of the textbooks you may find this L is taken to be A. This L is taken to be A. It doesn't matter. It is just a notation. So you can take anything. So I'm just, L is the length. So therefore, I'm taking that perspective L. But some of the textbook you will find A. Don't confuse with such a notation. Okay, it's overall, it is a length. That is what you should remember. Now, the obvious question that we have is that why we have to imagine such a system? Okay, so anybody, I am sure that when I am trying to explain that this particular concept, you would have got this thing, why we are imagining such a system. So the answer is here. We have conjugated molecules. Okay, where we have a alternative double bonds. It's basically, okay, this is a kind of this is a conjugated molecule, and at one position and third position, 5 position, and also the 7th position, there is a double bond. So unsaturation is there. This conjugated molecule, as we know very well, if you look at the bonding of such a conjugated molecule, there is a p orbital sitting on the sitting along the x direction, right? There is one p orbital. Two of the p orbitals of the carbon atom actually participate in the bonding. There is one p orbital. Okay, there is one p orbital where it is a kind of empty. Okay, now this orbital on each carbon atom is basically shown here. You can see here the p orbital is shown there. Now, in such a conjugated system, if I drop an electron, okay, this is a conjugated molecule, this is a real molecule. We know very well this is a real molecule, it is available. Okay, now in this particular molecule, if I drop an electron, what will happen? Okay, what will happen? So it's a potential energy. The potential energy is nothing but you can actually derive from its interaction. So when you drop an electron inside such a molecule, how it is interacting with each carbon and each atom is something that we have to plot. Okay, for the sake of simplicity, I have simplified. Suppose at x is equal to, suppose initially the particle at a infinitely large position, and then it is approaching the carbon atom number 1. Okay, it is approaching the carbon atom number 1. As it is approaching carbon atom number 1, especially the center, at the center, you have a p orbital. Okay, what will happen? It is an electron and it is interacting with the center, is a nucleus, carbon nucleus, right? It is a positively charged, therefore there is a attraction energy between this electron and the carbon atom, right? The attraction energy is generally denoted with a negative sign. Therefore, as the particle is approaching the carbon atom number 1, okay, then its potential energy, a potential energy basically it decreases. Suppose, and if it is traveling in this direction further, what will happen? As it is traveling this direction, its potential energy is going to increase. Why? Because here there are some other atoms are there. Of course, this is basically a bond actually. Here there is nothing. Therefore, its potential energy is going to increase to a maximum negatively, and then it will decrease again. It will decrease again as it is approaching the carbon atom number 2. Okay, as we continue this particular discussion, what will happen? The potential energy of the electron which is dropped in a kind of conjugated system, it is going to vary in this fashion. You can see the red curves. The red curves are the potential energy interaction, potential energy curves. Okay, now suppose if I want to find out what are the energy of such a system, what I am supposed to do according to the quantum chemistry or quantum mechanics. Now what I have to do, first of all, I have to write down a potential energy expression, mathematical expression for the potential energy. Now you can see here, what is this behavior? It is coming and then decreasing, again it is increasing and decreasing, again increasing and decreasing, increasing and decreasing. So overall, you have to have a mathematical expression which actually describe the electron behavior when it is actually dropped in a conjugated system, right? So if you are able to have a mathematical expression for such a behavior, then the next job is that we have the Schrodinger wave equation. Then you can substitute there. In the Hamiltonian, we have a potential energy, we have a kinetic energy term and also the potential energy term. So in place of potential energy, you substitute this particular mathematical potential energy expression. Then you try to solve that. Now, is it possible to solve describe such a potential energy variation using a mathematical expression? Is the question that I would like to ask all of you. Is it possible? So we know very well in mathematics, okay, y is equal to mx. What it says? Y is equal to mx. It is a linear straight line, right? It's a straight line expression that passes through the origin. Y is equal to mx plus c.
Yes, passes through origin, is a straight line.
Straight line again, but it is intersecting somewhere in the y-axis, right? C is the intercept. Now, can you give any mathematical expression that describe this particular behavior? We know very well the parabola, hyperbola, all those things. You can use whatever the mathematical expression. You can just try to describe this behavior. What is this behavior? This potential energy is coming down and then increasing, coming down, increasing, coming down, increasing. Okay, as we are moving from one direction, as we started from one direction and then moving the other direction, its potential energy is having lot of up and down variations. And we have to have a mathematical expression exactly to describe that behavior. And let me tell you that nobody has actually wrote a mathematical expression for such a behavior. I tell you that most of you would have seen enharmonic oscillator behavior. Have you seen anywhere this behavior? You might have seen, I think most of the textbook it is available. This is called enharmonic oscillator. This is very nice. We can represent, okay? This is very nice to represent this type of behavior. But enharmonic oscillator doesn't have a very precise expression. Okay, it is a single curve, but here you can see it's a large variation. No, the potential, there's a lot of, it is basically a discontinue, continuing and then discontinuing, continuing and discontinuing, this kind of behavior. And nobody actually tried it. I think a couple of people tried, but they failed it. And if you want, you can try it. And if you try, I think you will get mathematical. I think the best prize in the mathematics. So it is highly difficult for anybody to write an expression for this. Therefore, whenever we can't handle the situation in science and we make approximations, we try to approximate certain things and see whether we can try to understand in a better way. Okay, it's an approximation. So when I said it is approximation, it is up to you how you actually going to take up. One such approximation is this. Okay, there are certain variations within the carbon atom number 1 to carbon atom number 8. There are variations, but those variations, what I'm taking, I'm neglecting those variations. I'm trying to neglect those variations. That is the first approximation. And second, the potential energy within the box, okay, within that these two limits, I would say it is taken to be 0. Further, I'm making an approximation. Okay, there are, first approximation, there are certain variation within these two carbon atoms. Those are carbon atom number 1 and then carbon atom number 8. But all those variations I am taking as I'm making as a uniform. Okay, I'm neglecting those variations. Okay, and that is one thing. Second thing, that the potential energy, as long as this electron is confined to these two limits, that is carbon atom number 1 and 8, I'm saying its potential energy is 0. Okay, but if it is outside these two limits, I would say its potential energy is not known. Okay, I would say it is basically infinitely large. Why? Because at infinite distance, electron and then the nucleus, this p orbital, okay, and basically they cannot actually interact. Understand the potential energy? I mean, this electron, okay, as it is coming, as you know, there is a pi conjugated system, and there is electron is actually, that cloud is there, it is roaming in this p orbital. So as it is coming close to the nucleus, there is attraction. As it is going away from the nucleus, then there is a repulsion, because the pi bond, you know, there is a pi bond, and the pi bond, there is already one electron is there. Therefore, there is a repulsion, and then it will decrease. As it is going away from the carbon nucleus, it will basically there is a repulsion energy. As it is approaching the carbon nucleus, because of the nucleus is a positively charged and the electron is a negatively charged, therefore there is attraction energy. So attraction energy is taken to be is generally shown as a negative. When you plot the energy versus the distance versus the energy, attraction energy is generally shown in the downward direction, and upward direction is the repulsive energy. Okay, so now the outside these two limits, I'm saying that there is no interaction, therefore there is no variation. Therefore, such a situation, what I'm assuming is, its potential energy is infinitely large. Okay, so the problem what we are going to discuss, that is the particle in one-dimensional box. There is no exact system, physical system, that we may not come across in chemistry or physics, but there are certain molecules in chemistry, the conjugated system. These conjugated systems are the real problems, and the particle in one-dimensional box, what we are going to discuss today is basically a model of the pi conjugated system. Okay, it's a model or approximated a model of the pi conjugated system. Therefore, if we can understand the particle in one-dimensional box problem, then it is possible you can actually understand the pi conjugated system in a better way. Okay, so that's the explanation or the introduction about the particle confined to one-dimensional box. And we will do a couple of problems. But let me also tell you what is the length of the box. The length of the box, what we are going to discuss is of the order of few angstroms. You know the distance, double bond, what is the distance? It is 1.2, right? In the case of benzene, it is 1.2, otherwise it is 1.3 or something like that. If it is aliphatic conjugated system, then it is going to be roughly about 1.3, right? So you can just multiply these many bands. There are 7 bonds, so you can just 1.3 or 1.2 multiplied by 7 bonds. So that is the length of the box that we are going to discuss. The L, okay, the distance, So our quantum particle, which we have begun, that can move up to maximum of few angstroms. So that is what it is. Is it clear to all of you, this particular concept? Okay, we can continue. So this is our problem. Now, for the sake of convenience, what I do, I'm going to divide this problem into 3 different parts. I'm going to basically divide the problem into 3 different parts. Okay. The first part, what I say that suppose if the particle is outside the box, if it is this region, what is this region? I'm going to define 3 different parts. That is like region number 1. Suppose if the particle is outside for some reason, okay, if the particle is less than if x is less than 0, okay, if the particle is here, then such a region, I would say it is a region number 1. And if the particle is beyond L, the limit L, then such a region I would call it as a 3. And if it is within this box, I would say that region, I would say it is a region number 2. Okay, if x means the particle position is a variable, x representing the position of the particle, and if it is within the 2 limits, then it's such a region I would call it as a region number 2. And the potential energy already we discussed, and within the box it is in a 0, and outside the box, for any reason, if it is going outside the box, then the particle experiences infinitely large potential. Okay, now having defined this particular problem, then the next step in quantum mechanics is that we need to solve the time dependent Schrodinger wave equation. We need to solve the time dependent Schrodinger wave equation. Okay, but as you realize, the potential energy, what is the potential energy within the box?
0, sir.
It is 0. Outside the box?
Infinity.
So here there is no time variable. As you can realize, whether it is within the box or outside the box, the potential energy is not varying with time, right? Now, when we come across such a situation, we need not to solve the time-dependent Schrodinger wave equation, but instead it is enough if we can solve the time-independent Schrodinger wave equation. This is something that we have discussed in the previous class. Okay, so as you can see here, ideally we are supposed to solve the time-dependent Schrodinger wave equation to understand the behavior or to find out the wave function. But this is a perfect example where its potential energy is not changing with the time. Therefore, we need not to solve the time-dependent Schrodinger wave equation. It is enough we can solve the H psi is equal to E psi. This is nothing but basically H psi is equal to E psi problem. If you can solve that, that is enough. Okay, that is something that, okay, why? Because this H psi, E psi, H psi is equal to E psi problem, we will, if you can solve this problem, then we will get the what is wave function and what is eigenvalue. And then the wave function, if you can multiply with the time factor. What is the time factor? The time factor already we have discussed in the postulate in the previous class. Time factor is nothing but it is e to the power I minus I e n t by h cross. That is the time factor. That is how the wave function is changing with the time. Okay, so please recall the previous classes, then you will understand that. Okay, so what we do in this particular case, as the potential energy is not changing with time, then it is enough if we can solve the H psi is equal to E psi. That is a time independent Schrodinger wave equation we can solve, and we are going to obtain the wave function. Okay, then that wave function, if you can multiply with the time factor, which we have discussed already in the previous class, then that particular product will actually will obey the time dependent Schrodinger wave equation. Okay, and the wave functions in these three regions, I would say psi 1, psi 1 of x, psi 2 of x, psi 3 of x. Okay, and just this is just for the sake of convenience, there is nothing. So the overall, as you can see, there are three different regions in this problem. It is x less than 0 and x greater than L, and also x is within the 0 and L. If the particle is confined to within the box or outside the box, what is the problem and what are its solution, that we will try to understand. Okay, so we have to solve this problem. We have to simply solve the time independent Schrodinger wave equation, that is the H psi is equal to E psi. Then if you try to expand what is the Hamiltonian of this particular system or any system, that is basically potential energy term. This is the potential energy operator, and this is the this is the kinetic energy operator, and this is the potential energy operator, multiplied by psi n of x is equal to E n psi n of x. Okay, but we understood just now that v of x is nothing but it is 0, right, in certain region, and it is certain region it is infinity. So that's what we are going to apply. Now what I do, that first what will happen to outside the box. Suppose if the particle is outside the box, then what are going to be its wave function and what are its eigenvalues, I mean the energy, that we will try to find out. First of all, this can be argued in two different ways. As I was pointing out, we already started with an argument the particle is within the two limits, that is x is equal to 0 and x is equal to L. Okay, so why there is the situation, why the particle will be outside the box, right? That is a very simple argument, and you can't expect the particle to be outside the box. Therefore, if the particle is not there outside the box, then its wave function, you can't find the particle outside the box. Therefore, its wave function will be 0. That is a simple logic. Okay, the particle, already we started with an assumption that it is inside the box. Then there is no way in which that you will find, there is no way in which you will find the particle outside the box. Okay, if the particle is not there outside the box, its wave function is going to be 0, right? If wave function is going to be 0, that's all. So the particle in the region number 1 and 2, the wave function basically it will be 0. Understand, this is a simple logic, but mathematically also it can be argued. Then what we do, since v of x is equal to infinity in those two regions, we just seen that outside the box the particle experiences infinitely large potential. Therefore, its potential energy is represented with the infinity, right? Now, if it is infinity, what I'm going to do, I'm going to substitute those numbers, infinity, in this. Okay, here h psi is equal to E psi, but H is nothing but the potential energy plus kinetic energy. Now the potential energy here, I can see here, it is infinity. If it is infinity, what is, the overall, this quantity is going to be infinity, right? That is what I have written here. So infinity multiplied by sin of x is equal to En sin of x. En sin of x. I hope that you are following. Understand? I just substituted what is potential energy. If the potential energy is infinity, definitely the Hamiltonian will be infinity, and the remaining thing I just substituted like this. As you can realize, the fact, this is the particle. We already started with the particle, known particle, and it is a real system. Any real thing that exists on the universe will have a finite measurable quantities, whether it is energy or position or maybe momentum or whatever it is that you may think of. All the measurable quantities are real numbers. Therefore, the energies also will be real number, and therefore you can see here this particular object, that is En of E suffix n, nothing but the energy of the system or the particle is going to be a finite one. Okay, this is finite. Okay, this is finite. On the left hand side you have infinity. Infinity is equal to a finite quantity multiplied by sin of x. How this equality? This is a kind of equality. You can see here that equal symbol is there sitting in between, and the left hand side you have infinity, right? Infinity multiplied by sin of x is equal to finite multiplied by sin of x. So both sides sin of x basically same. So how this equality can be satisfied? This can be satisfied only when sin of x is equal to 0. Otherwise, it is not possible. On the left hand side, you can see it is infinity is equal to infinity multiplied by sin of x is equal to a finite quantity multiplied by same sin of x. This equality to be satisfied, then the wave function, that is sin of x, has to be 0. There is no other way. Okay, so that's all. That is all the mathematical expression. That is all the mathematical argument about this particular about the wave function outside the box. Okay. Then we found the solutions. If the wave function, sorry, you can go back. Here the wave function is 0. If the wave function is 0, then naturally the eigenvalue also going to be 0 according to this particular expression. The wave function is 0, so both places you have 0, 0. So when you multiply any quantity with the 0, then definitely it will be 0. So naturally we very simple, with a very simple argument, we found the solutions in the region number 1 as well as in the region number 3. Okay, and the wave functions are actually 0 in the two regions. Okay, and naturally the energies also will be 0. Of course, this is expected. There is nothing new what we have seen just now. What we are interested in the region number 2. Okay, if the particle is within the box. If the particle is within the box, its potential energy is going to be 0, right? If the potential energy is 0, then what you can do, you can write down the Schrodinger wave equation, the original time independent Schrodinger wave equation, that is h psi is equal to E psi, and then you can substitute V of x is equal to 0. Therefore, what we'll have is that only you will have the kinetic energy operator in the Hamiltonian. The other operator, that is the potential energy operator, is going to be 0, right? So I have substituted 0, which is equal to E psi n of psi 2 of x. Please remember that these are just notations. Psi 1 of x or psi 2 of x or psi 3 of x. These are all just notations. Okay, so if the particle is within the region number 2, its wave function is represented with a psi2 of x. That's a notation. Okay, now just if you substitute potential energy is 0, then we will have only the kinetic energy Hamiltonian operator. Then what I'm doing, I'm trying to simplify the expression, that is minus h cross square by 2m dou square psi2 of x by dou x square is equal to E psi2 of x. That is the expression. The potential energy term is actually ruled out. Now, as you can see here, this is a partial differentiation notation, dou, right? On the right hand side, you have psi2 of x. That means there is no need to express the partial differentiation notation. You can just replace with a normal differentiation notation. Why? Because the partial differentiation notation is essential or required only when you have more than one variable. As you can see here, the psi2 of x, it is basically going to be only one variable wave function. Therefore, I just replace that particular notation with a simple differentiation notation. Minus h cross squared by 2m dou square psi2 of x divided by dx square, sorry, d square psi2 of x divided by dx square is equal to E psi2 of x. That is the expression. So what is this expression? Have you anybody have you seen this expression earlier? Okay, before going to that, maybe let me do one more small rearrangement. I'm trying to do a small rearrangement. What I do is that I have this quantity. What is this quantity? Minus h cross square by 2m. This is the quantity I have. This quantity I will take it to the other direction. This quantity I will move to the other direction. So when I move that, this is what exactly happens. Okay, d square psi2 of x by dx square is equal to minus 2me by h cross square psi2 of x. That is the expression. Now, what I do, that I have a quantity. That quantity is, I'm just making a small substitution. So I have a quantity in this expression, that 2me by h cross square. 2me by h cross square. So I'm going to replace with a constant. Why? Because you can see that the 2 is what? Is a constant. M is the mass of the particle. E is the energy, because we started Hamiltonian. Hamiltonian operator is nothing but the energy operator, therefore total energy operator. Therefore, naturally the eigenvalue what we are going to update is the energy. Okay, it is going to be some constant. Okay, and then h cross. H cross is basically, h cross is nothing but the h by 2 pi. And naturally, when you square it also, it is going to be constant. Therefore, overall, it is a constant. And therefore, I am replacing with another constant, that is k square. Then the differential equation, what I obtain is d square psi2 of x by dx square is equal to minus k square psi2 of x. Okay, please remember this substitution also. Okay, so we are making a small substitution, and after making that substitution, the expression, the differential equation, the original differential equation is transformed to a new differential equation, that is d square psi2 of x by dx square is equal to minus k square psi2 of x. And this expression, if anybody have studied mathematics, you would understand it is a simple homogeneous second order differential equation. It is a simple homogeneous second order differential equations. Since it is a second order differential equation, it will have two solutions. If it is a first order, then it will have one solution. Since it is having it is a second order, so definitely it will have two different solutions. And those solutions, you can take it as you can guess actually. You can guess any mathematical function. You go back and see here, this is the differential equation, right? You can guess any wave function or any mathematical expression that satisfies this differential equation. Okay, you can guess anything. And what I'm taking, of course, you can take exponential functions. Okay, for example, e to the power minus ikx, maybe ikx you can take it, or plus ikx you can take it. It doesn't matter, no problem. But okay, you just take it, the first differentiation of e power ikx and e power e power minus ikx. Those are definitely going to be the solutions. I can show you that, the apart from those exponential thing, e to the power I k x. This is a function. I'm just trying to guess a mathematical function which satisfies the previous equation. That is d square psi of x by dx square is equal to minus k square. Right? So this wave function, you take the first derivative. What is the first derivative of this? It is I k, right, multiplied by e to the power I kx is equal to d psi of x by dx, right? If you differentiate that expression, it is that. When you take the second derivative of this, what will happen? It is essentially here one more ik will come, right? So it is basically, when you take the square one more time differentiation, it is going to be ik square d square psi of x by dx square, right? Isn't it? What is I square? I square is minus 1. That means it is minus k square here. K square here. It is minus k square multiplied by what is ikx? Ikx is nothing but psi of x. Okay, so that is equal to d square psi of x by dx square. Okay, what I'm trying to say you is that you can guess many mathematical functions that satisfy those the differential equation. Similarly, here you can see I have proposed two functions. That is, psi 2 of x can be, one solution can be a sine kx, a sine kx. You can just take this function first differentiation. Okay, d psi 2 of x by dx is equal to a k sine kx. What is the differentiation? If you differentiate a sine function, sine kx, what do you get? Can anybody tell?
AK cos kx.
Correct.
Minus
AK, yeah, AK cos kx you will get. And then take that, you take another differentiation. It is going to be minus AK square, this thing. So the similar fashion, you can actually prove that this particular psi 2 of x is equal to a sine kx will be a solution of the previous expression. What is the previous expression? This is the previous expression. D square psi 2 of x by dx square is equal to minus k square psi 2 of x. So that is a homogeneous differential equation. You can guess a mathematical function which satisfies that differential equation. One guessing based on our mathematical knowledge, that is exponential function. That is one solution. You can guess it, no problem. You can take it as a solution. Similarly, you can also guess like this. Okay, a sine kx. This will also be a solution. Similarly, a cosine function also is going to be a solution. Similarly, a cosine function will also be a solution. You can just try out in the same fashion. You can try out. You will be able to prove that this particular substitution will satisfy the homogeneous second order differential equation. Okay, but the most appropriate solution in this particular case will be psi 2 of x is equal to a sine kx plus b sine kx. It is the linear combination of these two. What are those? A cosine function and the sine function. Now, the obvious question that you may have, sir, why we are not taking the exponential function. As you know that it is very difficult to picturize or visualize the exponential functions graphically, right? So therefore, since the particle is real and the solutions, after getting the solution, if you can able to draw the graph and try to understand their behavior, it would be very nice, right? Therefore, I'm trying to avoid the exponential wave functions or mathematical function in our discussion. But some of the textbook you will find that exponential function as a solution. It doesn't matter. But just to have solve the problem, that is okay. But then to visualize those graphs, it's a bit difficult. Therefore, it is advantageous if you can take a sine function and the cosine wave functions. That is why we are going for this particular cosine and sine function. Okay, let me proceed this way. Now, the psi 2 of x is nothing but a sine kx plus b sine cos x. Okay, now that is the wave function. Please remember that in this particular case, a and b are the constants. I have introduced as a constant, and you also note down for the time being they are constant, and those values have to be determined. Now here comes a very interesting topic, that is boundary conditions. What are the boundary conditions? So to introduce the concept of boundary condition, let me bring our drawing, that is the particle in one-dimensional box drawing. As you can see here, let's suppose we have solved we have solved the particle in one-dimensional box. Let us suppose for the time being, we all assume that we have solved the particle in one-dimensional box problem, and its wave function, how it would be. Any guess? How it would be? You can see here. Okay, since it is a cosine and it's a linear combination of a cosine and sine function, right? Therefore, they will have oscillator behavior, right? They will have an oscillator behavior, and therefore I'm just drawing two curves. I'm trying to draw two curves. One is a red curve and the other one is a blue curve. How both of the curves are different? How these curves are different? The red curve, as you can see here, it is having a maximum, some kind of value at x is equal to 0, and also at x is equal to L. On the other hand, the blue curve, as you can see here, at x is equal to 0 and also x is equal to L, it is having minimum, lowest possible value, that is minimum, that is 0. That is the difference between these two. Now the question is, among these two, which one I am supposed to take it and which one I should neglect it? That is the question. Can anybody guess the answer?
Sir, sine cos.
Pardon? No, I'm not asking whether it is a sine function or cosine function. I'm asking, among these two, blue curve and red curve, which one I should consider and which one I should discard? That is the question.
Blue curve.
Blue curve.
Why?
Yes, origin.
It's starting with origin. That is why.
Sir, at the walls, the potential is infinity, so psi will not exist in cos curve.
To answer this, basically, we have to look at the wave functions. Please remember what is the wave function outside the box. I mean, in the region number 1 and also in the region number 2, what is the wave function? Those are 0, right? Those are 0. To answer this question, what we are supposed to do, first of all, we try to understand the wave function. Okay, the wave function is 0. And the particle, let's suppose it is approaching from left side to this boundary, that is x is equal to 0 boundary. And suppose if in this particular case, you can see here, okay, the wave function almost reached to a maximum. Okay, all of a sudden, here it is 0. and as soon as it reaches the boundary, that is x is equal to 0, it abruptly changes to a maximum value, and then it is actually varying in this fashion, and again it is reaching this particular point, and afterwards it is again, okay, abruptly it is basically coming down to a 0, and then it is 0 everywhere. Okay, so as far as this particular behavior is concerned, this is, I would say, it is a discontinuous behavior. Please recall the acceptability condition that we have discussed. The acceptability condition that we have discussed just after the postulate number 1. Any state function, any system can be represented in a state function or the wave function. However, the state function or the wave function has to comply with the 3 different conditions. One is the continuous behavior. As far as the red curve is concerned, that we cannot take it as a our wave function. Why? Because you see that the wave function is abruptly changing, okay, at the boundaries. Whereas the blue curve is concerned, with regard to blue curve, even at the boundary, the wave function is 0, both the boundaries. Okay, why? As I told you that we don't have any system that behaves very abruptly. Our systems are actually, they exhibit smooth behavior. Okay, so smooth behavior they will exhibit. Therefore, the red curve is something that we cannot actually take it. Only the blue curve we consider it. Okay, now how do we ensure in our derivation this particular aspect? Okay, that is by imposing boundary condition. That is by imposing boundary condition. Any solution that is taken to be the wave function or the state function in the region number 2, that has to comply with the certain condition. What are those? Those are, even at the boundaries, the wave function has to be actually, yeah, so even at the boundary, the wave function actually has to be 0. That is the those are the boundary condition that we will impose while solving itself. Otherwise, what will happen that, you know, it will show a discontinuous behavior and it doesn't give appropriate results of the actual system. And mathematically, how do we impose is shown here, that, you know, the wave function, suppose if x is equal to 0, that means at the boundary, left hand side boundary, x is equal to 0, the wave function has to be 0. Okay, if you evaluate, if you substitute x is equal to 0, then wave function must be 0. That's all. There should not be any other choice. Similarly, the other boundary, that is x is equal to L, okay, when you evaluate the wave function, that has to be 0 even at that particular boundary. Okay, so having understood the necessity of boundary conditions, let us try to impose the first boundary condition on the solution. What is the solution? The solution already we have found. Okay, the solution is going to be the linear combination of a sine and cosine function, right? A sine and cosine function. Now, in order to have the acceptability solutions, okay, in order to have the acceptability solutions, we have to impose the boundary condition. Now, first of all, we have to evaluate what is x is equal to 0. We have to evaluate what is x is equal to 0. Okay, in this expression, you can see here that we are substituting what is x equal to 0. Here, a sine kx, I am substituting x is equal to 0. So, and similarly, b cos kx, x is equal to 0. And from this, it is very easy that, you know, sine 0 is a 0. Therefore, psi 2 of 0 is going to be b. Psi 2 of 0 is going to be b. I think I have missed here. Here there's supposed to be 2. I think somehow I missed it. Please note down these two. Okay, so psi 2 of 0 is equal to b cos 0. The cos 0 is basically 1, therefore it is this quantity. And therefore, psi, in order to have the acceptability conditions, this value, what we obtained is actually b. Psi 2 of 0 is a b, and this value has to be 0 in order to have the acceptability solutions. Okay, so this is the one interesting result that we have obtained. Okay, what is the interesting result here? The b we introduced as a constant. B, the constant. This constant, now we found, if you try to impose these conditions, we found that it will be 0. It has to be 0 in order to have the acceptable solutions. Okay, that is one. So, and if you impose the second boundary condition, I mean the boundary condition at the second boundary, that is x is equal to L. So first of all, the same manner that we have to substitute what is in place of x, we have to replace L, and then we have to make it equal to 0. Okay, to have the acceptability condition, acceptable solutions. So that is what it is done here. Psi 2 of L, instead of writing x, so x is replaced with L, is equal to a sin KL plus b cos KL. But we already just above we have found that b is nothing but it is 0. Okay, you can see here that b, since b is 0, then this particular part is ruled out. Okay, this particular part is ruled out. So what is left over is that psi 2 of L is equal to a sin KL, a sin KL. But in order to have the acceptable solution, this psi 2 of L has to be 0. That means a sin KL has to be 0. A sin KL has to be 0. Have you understood up to this now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it is just simple. What we are trying to do, we are substituting x is equal to 0 in one case. The other case, x is equal to L. Okay, and we are going to get some numbers or some values. Those values, the psi of 0 and psi of L, we are calculating. And then psi of 0, in order to have the acceptable solutions, and those values have to be 0. Psi 2 of 0 has to be 0, whatever it comes. We obtain in one case it is b. Therefore, that b has to be 0. If b is 0, and at the other boundary, the wave function, the second term, that b cos KL, can be ruled out, can be omitted. Then we will have only a sin KL. Psi 2 of L is equal to a sin KL. Now, if you want to have the acceptable solution, then that psi 2 of L, which we obtained that a sin KL, that has to be 0. Okay, that's all it is. And then, as you can see, if a sin KL has to be 0, that means either here in this expression, that a sin KL is equal to 0. If that is the way it is, either a has to be 0 or KL has to be 0. Suppose if a is equal to 0, then what will happen is that the wave function will be 0 everywhere. In case, if you consider a is equal to 0, then the wave function will be 0 everywhere. Why? Because already we found b is equal to 0. This is our psi 2 of x. Psi 2 of x is nothing but it is the linear combination of a sine function and cosine function. And when we try to impose a boundary condition, that is b is 0. If b is 0, therefore that this part is neglected. Only we left with this. Now suppose, as per this particular argument, either a or sin KL has to be 0. If a is 0, the psi 2 of x is 0. That means the wave function is 0 even in the region number 2. Even in the region number 2. Therefore, the argument is that we cannot take the first argument. What is that argument? A should not be 0. This should not be 0. This should not be 0. Then if that is not 0, then this has to be 0. Okay? Are you following the logic? Therefore, the sign KL has to be 0. Do you understand this? Please stop me and ask me if you have any doubt here. The logics are very important.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so A cannot be 0. If A cannot be 0, the logic is that the other part, that is sin KL, has to be 0. That's all. Now in mathematics, you tell me when a sine function becomes 0.
N pi.
Pi, 2 pi.
N0. N pi.
Okay, so sin x is equal to 0 for all values of x, that is basically n pi, where n can take the values of 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. Sines, this is all small mathematics, you must know already, but here instead of x we have KL, that's all. Okay, sin x is equal to 0 for all values of n pi, where n can take the values 0 from 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. Okay, sin 0, it is 0. Sin 1 pi, that is sin pi is 180, again 0. Sin 2 pi is nothing but the 360. Sin 360 is 0. So on and so on, you can continue this discussion, right? So the change here is that you don't have x, but instead you have KL. Okay, so the value x, the KL has to be n pi. For all values of KL, n pi, okay, which is equal to n pi, that particular relation, that is, what is the relation? Sin KL will be 0. Are you following this?
Sir, but we take when n equal to 0, then whole will be 0, right? K will be 0, right?
You are one step ahead. Who is this? I'll come to that later. But this logic you understood other students. Okay, so from this expression that KL is equal to n pi, what is K can be written, that is n pi by L. The argument, the student, what she was telling, it is true that if n is equal to 0, it is ideally that n can take values, any value from 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. But if n is equal to 0, then again the problem, if n is equal to 0, then the wave function is 0 everywhere. Again, there is another problem. You can just go back and check it. Okay. Here, if n is equal to 0, then this KL is equal to 0. KL is equal to 0. Then sin 0, which is 0. That means the wave function, that is psi2 of x is equal to A sin KL. That is what we obtained, right? That will be 0. Okay, okay, we don't want any complication that actually violate the original behavior of the system that we have started with. We started with a system, the system is confined to two limits, and then it's a wave function we are trying to find out. Okay, we know that the particle is there within the two limits. That is the real situation where we have started. Then after all doing all this mathematical exercise, if we found some solution which doesn't explain the behavior, then such a solution or such a explanation we normally don't accept, right? So that is why n cannot be 0. So we neglect n is equal to 0 value, and the other values of n are basically accepted. Okay, so the n values of the n can take values from 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. The 0 value cannot be considered because the wave function will be 0 everywhere. That is, even in region number 2, the wave function will be 0. That is why we neglect such a complication. So now the eigenvalue and eigenfunctions we'll try to find out. Anyway, we have already found what is eigenvalue. And you please recall that we have made a substitution 2me by h cross square is equal to k square. This is the substitution that we made in the differential equation. But now what is k value is already known, n pi by L. Just to go back and see here that k is nothing but n pi by L. Okay, so from these two equations you can easily calculate what is E. Okay, you can just rearrange this expression and then substitute what is k, and essentially you are going to get energy expression, which is nothing but h cross square n square pi square by 2 ml square. H cross square n square pi square by 2 ml square. And some textbook this will be slightly different. In which way? The h cross is expanded. H cross is nothing but h by 2 pi, and take the square of that, it will be h square by 8 pi, sorry 4 pi. H cross square is nothing but h square by 4 pi square. Yeah, so therefore that is the only notation. So you will find the denominator part in some of the textbook, it is h square n square pi square by 8 ml square. Okay, so that's only a small notation issue. There is nothing to worry about it. And as you can see here, the energy expression what we have obtained, initially we thought it's a constant. Yes, of course it's a constant, but it is governed by a number, that is n. It is governed by a number, that is n. N can take values from 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. Therefore, since the n is restricted, the energy values are also restricted. And further, it is said that n is the quantum number. Further, it is said that the n is the quantum number, and then the energy, since it depends upon the n value, it is appropriate to represent in that manner. Therefore, instead of writing just energy E, hereafter we write En. N indicate the energy depends upon n. Energy depends upon the quantum number n, and whose values can be 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. Okay, as you realize, we didn't do anything, but then in the process we come out a quantum number. And in fact, this is the case that we come across as we proceed in as we discuss in other problems also. The quantum numbers, what you have learned maybe in the early stages with regard to n, principal quantum number, azimuthal quantum number, and magnetic quantum number, spin quantum number. These are all actually the quantum numbers. Nobody basically started with an assumption or began the exercise to derive the quantum numbers. But in fact, when we are trying to solve the either time dependent or time independent Schrodinger wave equations, naturally the quantum numbers comes out. So we need not to do any exercise for that. It is a kind of automatic. Okay, so what we are trying to do, we are trying to solve the time dependent independent Schrodinger wave equation of particle confined to one-dimensional box. And we found two regions, the wave function is 0, and within the region, within the region number 2, the wave function is calculated to be something. And then later on, we try to impose certain boundary condition to have the acceptable solutions. When we try to impose the boundary condition, naturally, the quantum numbers actually arises. So in fact, this is going to be the practice. Hereafter, whatever we may discuss the problem or the system, it is a real system or the any kind of model system, the quantum numbers naturally evolves out of the exercise that we do. Okay, please remember that. And let me write down once again, the wave function is actually is a linear combination of sine and cosine, but then since b is equal to 0, our wave function is a sine kx, and k is nothing but n pi by l. Therefore, a sine n pi by x is the is the uh, is the wave function in the region number 2. And since the wave function, having a quantum number n, therefore the hereafter I can neglect this particular 2 notation. I will just keep sine of x. Why? Because here I can see here there is a presence of the quantum number n. Okay, if the quantum number is changing, accordingly the solution is going to change according to the permitted values of quantum number. Accordingly, we are going to have different solutions. Therefore, it is appropriate that notation should be adopted, and then anyway it is understood that particle in one-dimensional box, outside the box the wave function is 0, and whatever the wave function that may comes out, that is in the region number 2, that is nothing but the sine of x is equal to a sine n pi by l multiplied by x, n pi by or n pi x by l, n pi x by l, and the wave function will be 0 in the other cases. What are the other cases? X less than 0 and also x greater than 0. So these two cases, the wave function is going to be 0. Okay, as you can see here, the eigenvalue and eigenfunction both we have obtained. Now, please remember that in this particular wave function, there is a. And I already introduced a as a constant, and this value need to be determined. And this value we can calculate by using a method of normalization. Okay, square integrability. Please remember that. Any wave function that we describe, any wave function that describe a system has to fulfill 3 conditions. What is singular? It must be singular, and it must be continuous, and it must be square integrable. And it is a sine. Already, as you can see here, it is a sine function. Now, for one value of sine function, we will have a one function value. If you vary the function value x, then accordingly the sine function is going to change. For each value of x, there is going to be one function value, and that function value may not be the same as any other value. Therefore, for the singularity, single valued condition is satisfied naturally, and the sine function is a continuous. Okay, sine function is already continuous, and we also ensured that at the boundary it must be 0. That is also already taken care. And what is not known as of now is the square integrability. We don't know this wave function is basically normalized or not. So we have to see that the normalization. And the normalization condition in this particular case, integral minus infinity to infinity psi star psi dx is equal to 1. It must be 1. That is a real condition. But since it is a particle in one-dimensional box and the particle is limited within the 2 limits, that is 0 and L, then it is appropriate accordingly we change the notation. So integral 0 to L psi star x, okay, psi x dx is equal to 1. That is the condition. So you can substitute what is psi of x. Okay, psi of x is nothing but a sine n pi x by L, and you can take the complex conjugate of that and multiply with the other one, that is a sine n pi x dx is equal to 1. Okay, and now as you can see here in this particular cosine function, sine function, we don't have any imaginary terms. Therefore, this particular complex conjugate doesn't have any meaning. So you can just neglect that. So essentially, the wave function, the integral is going to be a and a. There are 2 a's are there. Therefore, a as I told you, it is a constant. The constant can be written outside the integral, and then integral 0 to L sine square n pi x by L dx is equal to 1. And this can be easily solved. There is not, it's not very tedious integral. You know that sine square theta. So sine square theta can be written as 1 minus cos 2 theta by 2. So based on that, you can write this, and then you know you can split up the integrals. This particular integral can be splitted like, you know, a square integral 0 to L dx by 2 plus a square integral 0 to L and, you know, cos 2 n pi x by 2L. So this can be splitted, and then as you know that this particular term is going to be 0. This particular term is going to be 0, and only the first term will survive, and a square by 2 integral 0 to L dx is equal to 1. And you can solve this expression. It's not very very difficult. Integral x means, you know, integral dx, that is nothing but x, and when you apply limits, it is going to be L. That's all. So a square by 2 multiplied by L, which is equal to 1, and a is equal to, naturally a is going to be square root of 2 by L, and naturally a is going to be square root of 2 by L. Now the solutions, the complete solutions of particle confined to one-dimensional box is nothing but psi n of x is equal to square root of by 2 square root of by 2 by L multiplied by sine n pi x by L for all values of n 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. Okay, outside the box it's basically 0, and the eigenvalue, that is the energy, that is nothing but the h cross square n square pi square by 2 ml square. Okay, and where n is the quantum number. So having understood the quantum numbers, having understood the solutions of particle one-dimensional box, then the next job is that we try to look at how they look like. Okay, as I told you, these are the solutions. These are the two solutions, eigenvalue, and I mean, we want to have the wave function, and wave function is solved, and also the energy, and that is also known. Now, this is the general expression. Of course, this is also a general expression. But to understand exactly how the first solution is, we need to substitute the quantum number n is equal to 1. The first solution of particle confined to one-dimensional box actually is nothing but n is equal to 1, because n can take the least possible value, that is 1. Okay, in fact, it is said to be ground state. And if you can substitute what is n is equal to 1 in the solution, then psi 1 of x is equal to square root of 2 by L multiplied by sine pi x by L. Please note n is equal to 1. Okay, n is equal to 1. Then what about energy? Energy expression, if you want to know, you have to substitute n is equal to 1. N is equal to 1 means h cross square pi square by 2 ml square, right? That is the energy expression. So we got the wave function for the first wave function, the ground state wave function, and also we got the its energy also. If it is in the first step, if it is in the ground state, its wave function, and both are known. Now, pictorially, how this actually look like? Pictorially, how this actually look like? Well, it's not very difficult to predict. This is just a sine function. It is just a sine function. Suppose if you substitute suppose if you substitute x is equal to 0, what will be psi 1 of x? Sine 0. It is 0, right? Similarly, if x is equal to L, what is the value? Psi 1 of x?
0.
0 again. So x is equal to 0 and x is equal to L. The function, that is psi 1 of x, is going to be 0, isn't it? The next I will give another option. Like suppose if x is equal to L by 2, what is the answer?
Still 0, sir.
2 by L.
2 by L.
Root
2 by L.
Root by L.
2 by L.
Root 2 by L.
Yeah. So there is a normalization constant, but the function, I'm not worrying about this. This is it's a kind of amplitude. It is constant for all the wave functions. So I'm not worried about this, but the function is going to be maximum, isn't it? If x is equal to L by 2, L cancel out, sine pi by 2. Sine pi by 2 is nothing but sine 90. Sine 90 is what?
1.
Yes.
1.
So the at x is equal to L by 2, the function will have a maximum value. The function will have a maximum value. Now, can you guess what the nature of the wave function? It's very easy. I already gave the expression. Here it is 0. X is equal to 0. Okay. Here it is 0. You start. I'm trying to draw the graph. To draw the graph, first we need to understand some points, right? Okay, if you substitute x is equal to 0, that is going to be 0. Similarly, if I substitute x is equal to L, again it is going to be 0. But x is equal to L, it will have a maximum, right? So the nature of the graph is fairly easy to basically guess. Okay, you can just plot a graph of x versus with respect to x. Okay, x is changing from 0 to L. Okay, and the wave function, how it behaves, can be drawn. That is what I'm trying to draw. So it's going to be that type of variation. So it will start from 0 and then it will reach a maximum at L by 2. L by 2 is nothing but the center of the box. The total distance is L. Therefore, L by 2 is the center of the box. It will have a maximum wave function and then it will 0. Okay, now similarly, I can do another exercise. That another exercise is nothing but, instead of simply plotting psi 1 of x, I'm going to take the square of that, square of the wave function, and I'm trying to plot. That variation will be of this kind of nature. Okay, when you try to take the square of the function, it is going to be of that kind of nature. And as you can see here, the most probable position is nothing but the L by 2. What is most probable position? Most probable position is nothing but the position in which the particle can be found in with a maximum intensity. Okay, it is the probable position, is the position where the x will have, the wave function will have the maximum probability. Maximum probability depends upon the wave function. If the wave function is maximum, accordingly the probability will be maximum. Therefore, it is defined, the most probable position is defined to be, it is the position in which where the wave function of the particle or the system, quantum system, is maximum. And in this case, as you can see here, the wave function is maximum at L by 2. Therefore, that same thing is reflected in the probability. Psi 1 square, this is the probability. Square of the function is basically the probability, right? So the probability is also maximum at the center, that is L by 2. And the next thing, next solution is nothing but the n is equal to 2. The next one, the next possible value or the quantum number is n is equal to 2. So in the case of n is equal to 2, the wave function is going to be square root of pi 2 by L sine 2 pi x by L. And the energy is going to be 2 square, n square means 4 pi square h cross square by 2 ml square. And if you try to plot these numbers, especially in the wave function, how it is behaving with the L, how it is behaving with the position of the particle, of course, again, it is easy to guess. Here, again, the same thing, x is equal to 0 and then x is equal to L, the wave function has to be 0 because we have solved the equation, based on the boundary condition. One of the boundary conditions are basically at the boundary, the wave function has to be 0. Therefore, at these two regions, the wave function will be naturally 0. So that is anyway it is there. Now, what will happen if x is equal to L by 2 in this particular case?
0.
If
0,
x is
sir.
equal to L by 2, so this 2 cancel, right? This 2 cancel, this L cancel. So it's basically what?
Sin pi.
Sin pi is 0, right? So it is 0. So here it is 0, here it is 0, the center also 0, here also 0. Suppose if x is equal to pi by 4.
Sin pi by 2.
Pi by 2.
Sin
Sin
pi by
by 2.
Sin pi by 2 means what? Maximum, right?
1.
Yeah,
One.
it is maximum. 1 means it's a maximum, right? Therefore, now it is fairly easy to guess the functions. So that will have this type of nature. So it will, at x is equal to L by 4, it will have a maximum value, and then it comes down at x is equal to 2, x is equal to L by 2, it will have a basically 0. The wave function will be 0, and then negatively it increases. When x is equal to 3L by basically 4, then it will be maximum, negatively maximum, and then it will basically it comes back to 0. Then the probability we can plot. It is nothing but the square of the psi pi 2 sin psi 2 square, sin 2 square, and then that is nothing but the it will be, anything square, if you take it, it is going to be positive, right? So here the wave function actually is a positive, and then there is a negative, and the negative will be positive because we are taking the square of the function. And as you can see here, in this case there is a node. In the case of psi 2 of x, there is a node, and the node is at the center of the box. Okay, and the node is at the center of the box. And then we can continue our discussion into the third solution, that is psi 3 of x is equal to square root of 2 by L sin 3 pi x, right? And then the energy is going to be 9 h cross square pi square by 2ml square. Okay, and here again we can draw the wave function as well as the probability. So in the case of the wave function, it is behaving like this, and the probability density is going to behave like that. So in this particular case, it will have three maximum will be there, and then 2 nodes will be there. In the case of, we note down, I think this has to be actually psi 3 square of x, psi 3 square of x it is.